Hey there, gang. Patrick King here, coming to you live from Cazenovia, New York, teaching over the next couple days here in Cazenovia at Canterbury Farms. Today's question comes to us from Rachel, and Rachel asks, I'm hoping you can address the best way to introduce your horse to safely riding in a field. My gelding and I have done many trail rides together and some arena work. He's at home now with a mare for a companion, and I don't have an arena to ride in. My only options for riding outside of my lessons are the surrounding farm fields. I should also share that my mare gets anxious and very vocal when I take him out of the paddock. You can hear her anxious calling for at least a mile away, and I often wonder what kind of effect that has on my gelding. So, Rachel, it sounds like your gelding is more okay with the idea of riding out than your mare is. The question, of course, about riding the gelding. I'm going to try to touch on both pieces here a little bit if I can. And now it's a little bit of a generalized question, so I'm going to try my best to give kind of the best answers that I can. When I'm riding out in a field, you mentioned it's riding in farm fields, so I'm assuming that these are crop fields, and we're going to want to be respectful of the crops. Otherwise, you're going to end up getting kicked off of the land, and then you'll have nowhere to ride, right? So we want to be sure, basically, that we're respecting the crops as we're riding through the fields there, working a lot on kind of sticking to the perimeters, or if possible, riding between the rows. Some of my favorite times riding through fields in the past have been riding between rows of crops. It's a really neat way to make sure that you've got your horse going straight. One special ride I can remember, I was riding through a field of soybeans. The leaves of the plants were just high enough to tickle my stirrups as I was riding through, and on those steel stirrups, it was kind of singing as I rode across. It was really a neat ride that day. But anyway, so that was a way to really work on straightness with our horse. One of the things that we'll do is I'll do a lot of leg yields, a lot of tiny, tight serpentines around the perimeter of the fields, typically bordering a lot of crop fields. There's at least a small space to ride where there is no crops before you might have, I don't know, brush or scrub or trees or something like that. So most of the time is probably going to be spent there, or riding down between the crops, between bordering crop fields. So again, we want to be really respectful of those crops, but there's a lot that we can do as far as our leg yields and our serpentines. We can go backwards as well as we can go forwards, right? We've got those clear lines out there in front of us. How straight can you get your horse to back? I think there's about 1 million different exercises that we can do involving straightness, involving accuracy, right? That's something we're really going to be looking at, and really thinking down to your horse's feet. By the way, if you've got an anxious mare at home talking, really focusing on your gelding's feet and placement and position and bend and stepping and track, all of those things are going to help him also to be more focused on you than he is on the mare at home. So to me, it's going to be all about getting really specific. Transitions is going to be another great thing to work on. I like to do a lot of transition sets when I'm in a position like that. So what I might do is say 10 strides at a walk, 10 strides at a trot, 10 strides at a walk, 10 strides at a trot. We refer to those as our transition sets. And it can be, any combination of your horse's gaits, but really focusing, for us, it's about focusing on, of course, the feet and the timing and the cadence, so that we can ask our horse for the change immediately on that 10th stride or 20th stride or 5th stride, whatever the number is, right? You can vary that to whatever you want, but it's about you being very specific and focusing on exactly the right step to be asking for what you're looking for. So riding in the fields like this, still being respectful of the surrounding crops, there's a lot you can get done on the very fine-tuned horsemanship pieces that oftentimes can get looked over when we're riding in an arena because we've got all this open space to ride in, and making a little mistake isn't going to have a big impact. But when you're riding say through somebody's cornfield and you step in the wrong place, well, there you've just potentially killed a stalk of corn or something like that. So it's kind of a benign way of raising the bar, raising the stakes. Another little piece I'm going to offer about your mare. I know in the discussion there with your question, there was mention that you give her some alfalfa and things like that to keep her company when you leave. Something I would consider, maybe pony her out with you. Take her along. If that's a skill that you're comfortable with, it's a great skill for your gelding to learn. It's a great thing for the mare also, so that they're both going out there and getting a good workout. One of the things I used to do when I was taking in training horses, when we would hit the trail, I would have both horses saddled up and I'd ride out a certain distance and then I'd swap. I'd climb from one horse onto the other and we'd ride along, ponying one or ponying two, ponying three horses along. I'm not saying go out and pony three horses if you haven't got much experience with ponying, but that's another great way to help your horsemanship and to help your horses. You can be getting them both exercised and fitted up at the same time, potentially. So I hope that gives you some things to think about. Rachel specifically for asking the question, and anybody else who might be in such a situation. That's going to lead me to my question of the day. What do you specifically do? Maybe this will help Rachel as well. What do you specifically do if you're riding through some fields, some crop fields, and trying to be respectful of the crops? Do you have special exercises you like to do? Do you have certain things you like to focus on? Give me your answers to those, and Rachel, right? Give Rachel your answers in the comment section below this video. I really look forward to reading what you have to say about what you do riding through fields and being respectful of the crops. So, gang, if you found this video helpful, please feel free, share the video. If you know somebody who might need or could use this advice, please tag them in the comments section below or share this video directly to them. I'd really appreciate that. Hey, you keep sending in your questions. I'll keep talking about horses. Thanks, Kay.